Thanks to all of you for being here. So we gave you a little homework last night. Everybody rubbing the sleep from their eyes because it's there's not been a lot of sleep. There's been a lot of listening to the online streaming debut of Views. So I want everybody's initial reaction, and by which I mean sort of, was this album worth the wait? Amanda.
Oh man, I was really hoping I didn't have to start. Well, I feel like Drake does what he does well, which is I didn't think that this was his career-defining masterpiece album. I think that it continues a sort of trend that he started. I like Drake when I'm driving. I feel like he gives me good driving music, good head nodding music, good music in the club, and I feel like this album achieves a lot of that. Listening to it so late at night, I was struggling through the first part of it because it starts off really slowly, picks up a little bit in the middle, and then goes a little bit more slow in the end. And it's almost as though he's combined a lot of the sort of themes of his earlier work in that sort of journey that he takes us on. So do I think it's the career-defining masterpiece album? Not necessarily, but I don't also know that that's where he was going. As he talked about what his goal was for the album, he said he just wants to give people joy, and I feel like this is going to do that.
Okay, a lot of joy in the car for Amanda. You guys were nodding too. Carl, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think masterpiece definitely isn't the word that comes to mind first. There's 20 tracks on this album,
That's long.
and we're in a position right now where we're just trying to take it all in, so it's hard to make a final decision of any kind, but it feels like, this is one of those cases where you work on something for a couple of years and, it's probably winnowed down from, 40, 50 tracks that were made over the course of a couple of years working on it. But from a listener's point of view, it feels like the winnowing could have continued a bit,
Okay.
rather than sort of 90 minutes of a lot of sort of mid-tempo songs. You could crunch that in a little bit, and I come at it as somebody who was a Drake skeptic for a long time, and really kind of got won over just in the past couple of years. And with the sort of mixtape album, If You're Reading This Is Too Late, was really kind of a conversion moment for me where I was just like, I'm really down with what he's doing. And this feels a little bit like a step back from there. It's a little less playful and a little less inventive and a little less aggressive than that was, and I feel a little disappointed on that level. But it's early days.
All right, Anupa, I'll let you. I want to pick up on here, but I'll let Anupa weigh in with first reactions.
Yeah, I think like Amanda and Carl said, I'm not sure that this is his masterpiece. I actually don't think it's his masterpiece. Let's say that. I think the length certainly would suggest that there's a lot going on here. Like this is a grand statement album, and I think ultimately what makes it what the shortcomings for the album for me is that we've had high profile releases from Kanye West, Beyonce, and Rihanna in the last 4 months. And those three albums are albums that they're doing something, they're making a statement. They're challenging our perceptions of the artist. They're giving us some kind of insight into either their personal lives or the way that they work, their craft. And with this album, obviously there's a lot more listening to do, but I just don't get that sense that there's some kind of pushing forward in a way that I would have liked, like a challenge,
It's interesting. You all have, I think, all even used the word masterpiece and sort of saying that maybe this isn't that, which is certainly a word that was used most recently, probably for Lemonade with Beyonce's release just earlier this week. So I want to kind of talk a little bit more about that and what he is or maybe isn't doing with this record. But first, I want to let Drake defend himself. He explained last night on Beats One Radio. He calls this a concept album. He calls Views a concept album. Have a listen to what he said.
The album is based around the change of the seasons in our city. So it starts out, in the wintertime, and starts out with a song called Keep the Family Close. And yeah, that was basically what I used to tie it all together is winter to summer and then back to winter again.
So I guess that would explain what you're saying, Amanda, the slow start, the summery, maybe middle section, and the slower finish. Does it work as that concept? Is that concept holding?
I think the one thing that strikes me about that concept is I think we Torontonians and Canadians, I'm sure, have lots of summer feelings and lots of winter feelings. And, fall is kind of the nice in between. But spring, I mean, aside from us being really excited that summer's on the way, I don't really feel like there's kind of a narrative attached to spring. So it feels like kind of a weird time to put out an album that is centered on that theme for me. Like, I think it might have been more effective had it dropped in the fall, or like dead in the winter, in the pitch black winter, or like, just as summer was starting to heat up. So that for me feels a little bit off.
Amanda, was there a song, just because we've only thus far just played one of the previously released singles, so is there a song that stood out for you on this record?
Yeah, I mean, just going off of what Anupa said, I think it is a kind of strange time, and maybe in my expectation for what I like Drake for, which is the summertime tunes, like his songs defined my entire summer last summer. So when I was waiting for, what I was waiting for was those songs, and it took a while to get there, and it's actually when it got there that I started to get excited. So one of the first songs that kind of picked me up a little bit was Weston Road Flow, and it has this Mary J. Blige sample, it has this really cool groove, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm here. I'm awake.
This is what
I
you've
got
been waiting
this.
for.
This is what I've been waiting for. This is the flow that I love Drake on. Like, this is the kind of style that I like him. I don't mind Drake singing, but I really love him rapping. And so that was the first moment that I was like, okay, here we go.
There's a lot of head nodding around the table on that one too. All right, let's let the listeners have a listen to Weston Road Flows.
Drinking hypnotic with Glenn Lewis, I been through it. Y'all was so afraid to lay claim to it. Too busy face screwing on waist movements. You was riding TTC Metro, I had the place booming. First take Drake, I rarely have to take to it. And they still take to it. Big Apple had the white Hummer parked right in front of Fluid. And we be walking in that like we already knew it.
Boy, it packs a lot of Toronto references in there in a very, very short time. So here we are. It's already, there's one particular lyric I want to get to from another song that from this record that's already entered, shall we say, the Hall of Fame of quotable Drake lyrics. Let's listen to this. This is a line from the song Child's Play. And this is about arguing with an ex-girlfriend at a cheesecake factory.
Why you gotta fight with me at Cheesecake? You know I love to go there. Say I'm acting light-skinned, I can't take you nowhere. This a place for families that drive Camrys and go to Disney. They don't need to know all of our business. You wildin', you super childish. You go to CVS for Kotex and my Bugatti. I took the key and tried to hide it so you can't drive it and put on mileage.
Yeah, a pretty personal rapper there. And I wanted to sort of bring back something that you all, we spoke earlier about, is this his masterpiece, and the comparisons with, for example, Beyonce's record this week, which is sort of being called her legacy, which, has this big political, broad-looking statement kind of impact as a record. A lot of the artists operating at Drake's level, Kendrick Lamar would be another one, I guess, are producing more of that complex, socio-politically themed music. And, we're at the Cheesecake Factory with the breakup. I mean, does Drake sort of run the risk of sounding a little too self-absorbed right now by comparison with some of his peers?
I mean, I would say that, I don't look to Drake for that. I think that everyone plays their part and plays their role. It took Beyonce 15 years to get here, and that's okay. And I wasn't sure if she was ever going to get there, and that would have been okay too. I'm very happy that she's here, and it did incredible things for me. But I think if Drake tried to fulfill that need just because so many people feel like this is the moment for it, that would feel so inauthentic. One of the things Drake is he's authentically himself, and he is playing the role that he does, and he does it well. I go to him for my party tunes. I go to him for my driving music, as I said. I go to him for a particular type of introspective reflection that is not the same kind of introspective reflection that I got from Lemonade, and that's okay.
Okay, that's interesting. Carl, what do you think about that?
I don't really want to imagine what a political Drake record would sound like necessarily. But, I think the thing, when thinking of this record in the context of something like Lemonade and other records, it's more the sense that this record isn't joining in this sense of sort of revising what an album can be, The same way that Kanye's album was kind of this work in progress, sort of slow time release, and all of this kind of work that's been going on this year. And this feels a little bit behind the curve on that level. And, maybe it's because it's something that's been germinating for such a long time. but yeah, it's more that it's a little dull on that conceptual level, Even talking about it as a concept record of winter, summer, winter, which you wouldn't necessarily think of if he hadn't told you, but it's also not the most scintillating of concepts as concepts go. So it's more that on that formal level that it lets down a bit. But like I love that passage in Child's Play. The moments Hotline Bling kind of set me up hoping that this would be as much as possible a comedy record. And I feel like in that passage,
That song
you're really
perhaps it
getting
is.
that. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of classic Drake, though, right? Like those are the scenes that he loves to set up for his fans. It's the same way that I feel so sure that he created that album cover to be, memed.
Oh, he did.
You know, and he creates those little visual snares in his songs, for the exact same reason.
Certainly feeling the love for his hometown again on this record. He's not the only rapper to do that for his city, but I know, excuse me, Toronto really feeling the love for Drake, I think, regardless of concept. So good to get you all here. We're out of time. There's probably lots more to say about Drake, but thank you for being here.